Today, we're delighted to speak with Little Feat co-founder Bill Payne. Welcome.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's an exciting moment.
It is. We have a new record, and there's a lot going on. I can tell you, I'm writing a book, a memoir. It's called Carnival Ghost, and got some good people surrounding me on it. I'm writing it, but I've got a couple of good editors and whatnot, and it's just a great time to be around doing all this.
And you've got this, what I think is a great new album, Strike Up the Band, which you're promoting.
Mhm.
The first release, Too High to Cut My Hair, has already gone viral. Do you feel this is a revival moment for the band?
I do, much in the way that we experienced it through Let It Roll when that in 1988. And I told the band this when we got together during the pandemic and then finally met each other in 2021. um, I said, we got a lot to do, but when we get to record our next record, the 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 guide for us is going to be what we did in 1988 with Let It Roll. I think it's going to be a very similar reception, and um, if we do it right, and we have, thankfully, and we can thank not only the band for that. I thank the band for that, but Vance Powell, who uh, he and I produced the record with Scott on a few tracks. But Vance Powell is an absolute genius to work with, and just a wonderful person.
So that just to clarify that, there was a deliberate choice to evoke Let It Roll.
Well, for me, it was just in a sense of uh, something that had happened before with success. And we often learn a lot from our failures, obviously, but we can also learn from our successes. And I felt it was a very similar atmosphere. You have a new group. People are going, gee, I hope it sounds like Little Feat. I go, well, if we play Happy Birthday, it's going to sound like Little Feat. But um, and for us too, as I said, when we got together in 2021 back east for rehearsal, it was our first time not meeting Tony Leone. We knew him from concerts down in Jamaica that we'd played. But in terms of the band actually all getting together in one place following COVID and sitting down in a room, well, we all kind of hoped it would work, and it did. It was amazing. But uh, you never know until you're in that room and beginning the process. So it was a relief that we actually had a band.
The album kicks off with two songs that you co-wrote, 4 Days of Heaven, 3 Days of Work, and Bayou Mama. They're big songs and celebratory songs to me.
They are. I was sitting around here thinking of titles and on the first one, 4 days of heaven, 3 days of work, this sort of came in and quickly wrote it down. And I brought that song back to New York to write with Scott Sherrard and Tony Leone. And we finished up the lyrics. I had some lyrics to it already and a sense of where the music should go. But yeah, everybody, Scott and Tony dove in. We finished the song. I thought, well, that's one we definitely have in the bag. Charlie Starr, who I wrote, I mean, he wrote the song. It was Bayou Mama, and I chimed in on a chorus, not a chorus, but the bridge section, and maybe tweaked a couple of lyrics here and there. But um, we had written two songs for this record, but uncharacteristically for us, Paul, we came into this record with more songs than we could possibly put on it. I don't think we've ever done that before. We normally, if we have, well, we can get 11 songs on, we come in with 11 songs. This album has 13 tunes. Um, they're all good. And we probably had another four or five on top of that. So one of those songs that I wrote, of the two that I wrote with Charlie Starr from Blackberry Smoke, will appear on the next record. And that's the good news for fans that will appreciate this album. There'll be another one.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's exclusive.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm curious, when you write songs, when you're composing like that, do you feel as a keyboardist that you are sometimes competing with guitar solos for space?
No, not really. In fact, I don't ever think of it, to be honest with you. I think that the the way I view a keyboard, Paul, is that it's an orchestra, right? I've got 88 keys if I'm playing or composing on a piano, which I generally do.
Uh,
And I use it's a Zoom recorder, one of these little things.
oh, yes. Yeah.
And those things can uh, I wrote 20 songs with Robert Hunter as a result of of using that little recorder.
Uh,
Because you know, like as a writer, you go, "Oh, I got a great idea," and 5 minutes or 3 seconds later, you go, "No, what was that I was thinking?" So that took care of that problem. But no, I think that generally speaking, what you do when you write a song, uh, yeah, you want to figure out who's going to play what, where, let people decide that. That's what's the beauty of being in a band is people. It's like having one turkey leg on a plate uh, on the kitchen table, and you got 8 guys or 7 guys or 6 guys that want to reach in and grab it. Who's going to get it first? And are they going to share? It's a lot like that.
uh-huh. The title track, Strike Up the Band, features Larkin Poe in singing the backing vocals. How did that come about? I was wondering if is that the Nashville connection or something else, or
Well, Vance Powell, well, first of all, the song was written by our guitarist and vocalist Scott Sherrard. He's from Michigan, and he wrote it as it's sort of a dual purpose. One was the idea, the notion of people coming together. You know, I don't have to tell you what kind of times we're living in now. Our allies are no longer our allies, on and on. We live in an upside down world, bizarro land, especially in the United States. But the other part of it was like in striking up the band. Here's a new iteration of Little Feat. We're striking up the band again. So
Hmm.
I thought that was pretty clever and cool. The having Larkin Poe sing with us, um, we were looking for background vocalist. Kristen Rogers sang on a lot of stuff. She's wonderful. She's out with Post Malone right now as a background singer for him, as
Hmm.
she should be. She should be singing with the best. But Larkin Poe came in through Vance Powell, who also knew them.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if Scott had mentioned them or not, but Vance definitely did. So there we go.
Uh-huh. Okay. Do you have any particular soft spot for any others that you'd like to emphasize?
Any songs?
Yeah, any particular song that you
Oh
have a soft
yeah.
spot
Well,
for?
on this record, there's a couple that I'll lead with one. I love them all. I mean, I have to. I mean, just
Yeah.
because we played them and they sound so great.
Uh-huh.
But I wrote a song with Vince Herman, and it is called "New Orleans Cries When She Sings." It's the last song on the record.
Oh, yes,
It
yeah.
starts off as a ballad, and then it kicks into the second line beat, and it's a big party after that. And I was pleased to write. My parents were married in New Orleans. Um, Little Feat throughout the years has spent a good deal of time there. It's a dangerous city. Uh, it's also a remarkable city in its resilience and the amount of music that's come out of there.
Hmm.
And about 2.5 weeks from now, I'm going to be playing piano night at the House of Blues in New Orleans. So just me and acoustic piano. There's probably 26 or 25 other players that are playing that evening as well. There's two concerts, one in the Bird Room, which is upstairs, a more intimate affair, and then go down to the main room to play. I did it last year, and I was happy they invited me back. WWOZ is the radio station that's associated with it, and for those in your neck of the woods, if you're not familiar with WWOZ, check them out. They're from New Orleans. It's a great station.
Okay. I will do that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Going back, I know you've talked a lot about Lowell George in many interviews, of course, but I was wondering if you could help me fill a few specific gaps for me.
Sure, of course.
I love the story of you going to Lowell's house for the first time and being told, I think by his girlfriend, that you'll have to wait 4 or 5 hours, even though he knew you were going to arrive. You have to wait 4 or 5 hours before you actually see him. I'm
Right.
wondering if at that moment, did you wonder, can I work with this man?
Well, uh, actually, I admired his taste. She was beautiful, blonde, short cropped hair, sitting cross-legged, listening to Eric Satie, some music of his. And I said, when she goes, well, he'll be back. He's expecting you. He'll be back in 4 or 5 hours. I said, what does he do when he's not expecting you? So I got that out of the way. And then she had to leave shortly thereafter, but I enjoyed his record collection. There was a song on there on a Smithsonian recording, Big Bull Rat Gonna Join the Band. And we used that 9 years later for Waiting for Columbus to introduce that album before going into Fat Man in the Bathtub. He had a samurai sword on the back wall. To the right of that, he had a sitar. He lived in a very rustic house, uh, shaded by trees just off the street. And I thought, this is, I think I can work with this guy. I really do. And when he came in, it was like, not like, hey, I'm sorry. He just like, boom, we just hit it off. And then I still wasn't sold yet. I was there to actually meet Lowell, but I also wanted to see if I could meet Frank Zappa, who was over in Europe at the time.
Yeah,
Um, so by the time I met Frank, which is about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks later, I'd made the decision to work and to for Lowell and I decided to work with one another. So we had a band, and Frank was very supportive of all of this, which was great. So
that
it was
was
a good
another
time.
big question I wanted to clarify, whether aside from the music, you were simply having more fun with Lowell than you were with Frank.
Well, when it really got down to it, I felt as accomplished as I thought I might be, I probably wasn't accomplished enough to work with Frank Zappa. His music is very complicated, um, a very demanding guy, which is good. But I was having more fun with Lowell. We we were just investigating so many things at that time. Instrumental music. We came up with Truck Stop Girl, which the Byrds wound up recording. Terry Melcher was their producer, for example. And Terry before he had gone to Europe himself, he had talked to Lowell and I about putting a record deal together when he got back. The day that he left, the Manson family murdered the La Bianca family. Not that, I mean, 5 or 6 minutes from Lowell's house. And then the next day they were down in Beverly Hills or that area with Sharon, killed Sharon Tate, the Folger, the heir to the Folger family and others. And it was a nightmare. Those are the times we were living in.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I had been sleeping on the beach, sleeping in people's apartments, sleeping in my car. Um, I wanted to be in a band, but I had been desperate probably a year and a half before that. So I wasn't just diving into anything, but I felt confident once we decided we wanted to work with one another that um, this was something that would probably, well, we didn't know how long it would last. Obviously, none of us thought, I mean, I'm 76 years old and I'm still playing in Little Feat. I was 20 years old when I joined.
There are various stories about the genesis of Little Feat that I'd like you to clarify for me. I'm just not clear
Mhm.
whether when Lowell showed Zappa Willin', the song Willin', whether
Mhm.
Zappa fired him because he felt he was too talented and that he should form his own band, or whether he felt that the drug references on Willin' was unacceptable to him. Which was it?
I think it was a combination of both, Paul. I think it probably started with the fact that Frank didn't like the drug references.
Okay.
So let's that's my interpretation of it. But he also knew Lowell was exceedingly talented, and he was. And
Yeah.
so I think Frank was supportive of that, but he also sent a message to Lowell that, look, this is your your domain. You handle it. I'll support you, but but not in the sense of having you bring it into my domain. So I think that's where we were.
To skip forward, by 1979, tensions were growing in Little Feat, partly because of creative differences, I believe. But was Lowell's increased reliance on drugs a problem for you?
It had been that way for a while, to be honest. But it was I didn't forecast his demise or death either. Far from it. I thought Richie and Paul had a much greater chance of exiting the planet early than he did. Um, but he was vulnerable, Paul. He his he had been ill for a while. I wasn't too sure of the extent of it, but it had been going on for a while. Also, a style that he had, which is very similar to Jerry Garcia's in the Grateful Dead, was that his style of leadership was one of he wanted to be the leader, but he didn't want to lead.
Uh,
So he would disappear. He'd just disappear for a week or two at a time sometimes. Where's Lowell? Where's Jerry Garcia? You know what I mean? Um,
yeah,
I heard stories of that from the dead, and but I said, well, Lowell was doing that with us. Well, I would step in and I would have meetings with the record label, with management, with the accountant, et cetera, so on. So, I mean, I took up the slack with that, but I actually, in the process of writing this book, I found a letter to my parents. I think it was in 1973, and I was talking about this. Yeah, Lowell's disappeared, and I went, well, there it is, right in black and white,
right.
because I've got the letter that was sent back to me from my parents, so I could hold on to it. So it was great.
Wow. I know this is a very difficult question, but do you think he was on a course of self-destruction?
Well, that is it is a difficult question. It's one I don't know. I mean, I, I kind of I kind of view this like beatnik poetry, Paul. I mean, in other words, you have where you cut up a bunch of words, you put it into a hat, and you bring out the words, and you create some poetry.
Yeah,
Um, I'm being silly about it a little bit, but when you put into a hat Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Brian Jones, all these people that have died from overindulgence, right? Lowell's in the same, he's in the same hat. I don't think it defines who they are or why or how they got there. Self-destructive behavior is is part of it, I'm sure. It's tough to disengage yourself when you're in that spiral. Um, but James Taylor, um, he was heading that direction. John
yeah,
Belushi's another one that actually approached me at one point when I played a rap party at the Universal Amphitheater, or not the amphitheater, but at Universal for the Blues Brothers movie that was coming out. We had a little party, and he came up to me and says, "Bill, someday I'd love to do the Lowell George story." I said, "God, you'd be perfect, John." And but he was so perfect, he went out the way Lowell did. Um, so yeah, that self-destructiveness is something that it had to be at play, but um, as I said, James Taylor was somebody who by the way was dear friends with John Belushi, who turned his life around. So there are people that can that have the fortitude and I think some form of luck as well to re-engage their lives and so yeah, but Lowell was unable to do that. He was vulnerable.
yeah. Thank you for that. Moving on, you've worked with an incredible number of big names. Of course, some of those as I would understand it, you would maybe just turn up and it's almost like a professional relationship. You do your bit and then you leave or whatever. Because some
Yeah.
relationships are much closer. I'd just like to mention a few of those names and just ask you what your reaction is to them. Bob Seger.
Yeah, Bob Seger, boy, I think it was in 1970, 76, 77. I started working with Bob. And yeah, he's a very personable guy. He's from Michigan. I have a great Michigan connection. I actually lived there for a while. Um, but no, Seeger's great. Generally speaking, I think the first record I played on was Against the Wind. I played Hammond B3. I
Mm,
played on Hollywood Nights, piano and B3. Played
mm.
on, I played on a lot of his stuff. They just kind of sort of turned me loose. They have some direction, but they turned me loose and say, do, play what you're going to play. And I did two tours with him, one in 1986 and 10 years later in 96. And had a ball with both. Boy, I mean, the guy, he sings like nobody else is what I get from him too. And he's an excellent songwriter.
Bonnie Raitt.
Bonnie, oh my gosh. Um, I met Bonnie probably in 1973, maybe in around that area. Um, she's been a fixture in my life, and I think mine and hers up to a certain point. I was just going through 1979. She joined us for the tribute we did for Lowell at the Forum on August 4th. Um, on I think it was August 18th, excuse me, September 18th or 19th, we were playing the No Nukes concerts in New York City, and that was a five-night affair. We also wound up on the 23rd, which is I believe a Sunday, I believe, and that was at Battery Park in New York. And I listened to a tape of it, and there was a couple times with Mr. Bill Payne playing piano, and I was like, yeah, she's always been so generous, Paul.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I mean, I just I was down in Australia some years ago with the Doobie Brothers, and we went to see her show in Melbourne, Australia. And Pat Simmons and I were sitting in the audience with his wife, Chris, and she mentioned me about two or three times from the stage. And we went back to listen to the second part of the concert from backstage, and she mentions me another couple, three times. And Simmons looks at me and goes, what did you do to her to get her to mention you so many times? I said, $50 goes a long way, Pat. No, I love her. I mean, what can I say? And she
Uh-huh.
joined us on Sam's Place, by the way, which is the blues record
Okay.
we put out.
Yeah.
A
Jackson
lot of fun.
Brown.
Jackson, oh my gosh. Jackson, there were several people in 1969. Fred Tackett was one of the very first people I met.
Mm,
Uh, but Jackson was a close second, if not the first.
mm,
He loved Lowell, and he was hanging out at Lowell's house too. That Lowell's place was a meeting place. Like people would just naturally gravitate there, right?
mm.
Um, but I did a tour with Jackson in 1980. I played on the record Hold Out or Hold On. I played on at least a couple, three records before that. Um, the first time I played with Jackson, he said on the second song of the day, he goes, play D, F sharp, A instead of A, D, F sharp. I go, okay. So about three or four times of this sort of, I go, would you play this song for me? So he comes out and plays. I go, is there any earthly reason you're getting me to play like you and wasting your money and my time to do this? Why don't you just play it yourself? You play it beautifully. So he did. I said, if you ever want me back, I'll take direction, but I want
Uh,
to be able to put myself into it as well. So for the Pretender record, which is I think the next album in line, I went and played on several songs, one of which was called let's see, now I can't think of it, but it was oh gosh, I usually remember the song. Anyway, sorry, it was Here Come Those Tears Again, one of his big tunes. Well, they allowed me to play the way I wanted to play, so it
uh,
was cool. I took some direction on it as well. That's Jackson.
Lovely story. One last one, which is just an internet rumor, but I'm really not clear whether it's true or not. Did you
Hmm.
play with Pink Floyd?
I did. I live, in this world we live in, Paul, with the internet and with how much, you know, what credence do we put into what we find there, right?
Yeah.
It appeared that I played on a couple records of Pink Floyd's. The one that I remember playing on, however, was at 10 a.m. in the morning. I don't remember the song or the album, but it was Jeff Porcaro was there, as was David Gilmour, and Bob Ezrin, who's the producer. And I walked in to play Hammond B3, and Bob Ezrin directed every single note I played on that song. And David didn't say anything. Jeff, God rest his soul, didn't say anything either. So I thought, well, I'll just be the vessel for Bob Ezrin. I talked to my son about it later, and he goes, that wasn't one of their best albums. I said, gee, I wonder why.
Too much control.
Too much control. But David Gilmour's a lovely guy. I love Pink Floyd. I'm honored to have played at least on one of the albums. And if people think I played on more, so be it. That's good too.
Bill, many people don't know about your interest in photography, and I think they should do. And I'm going to say now, check out billpaynecreative.com to take a look at your absolutely wonderful photos, landscapes, creative work. But I'd just like to choose one. There's one of you, I think you're taking it of Hubert Sumlin on the bus with him playing guitar. I was just wondering if you remember that moment.
I do. It was in New Jersey. I don't remember the town. I'm pretty sure it was New Jersey. And we were pleased to have invited him to sit in with us at this club we were playing. And of course, Hubert Sumlin, for those that don't know him, he played with Howlin' Wolf. And he told us stories of oh gosh, not only of Wolf, but of who was the guy that wrote all the songs for Howlin' Wolf? Oh my gosh, this is what happens when we get old, huh? What's his
Be a
name?
senior moment as well.
Yeah, me too. Well, at any rate, I played a concert some years later at the at Madison Square Garden, and Greg Allman, Johnny Winter, Joe Cocker, and this fellow that I can't remember who wrote. He wore a white suit, three-piece suit, pork pie hat, a rather tall gentleman. He wrote all the songs for Howlin' Wolf. He wrote Smokestack Lightning. I mean, all of them. Little Red Rooster.
Uh,
Uh, anyway, this guy was a boxer, and Hubert said if he didn't like what you were doing, he wanted to take you out in the alley and beat you up. But that photo that I took, Jimmy Jimmy Vivino, I think, was on that bus as well. And when he found out that I was a photographer, he kept calling me Ansel, like Ansel Adams.
oh, yes.
And when he saw that photo, he goes, "Oh, you actually can take photos." And I go, "Well, yeah. Can we do more than one thing? I mean, is it okay to do more than just play piano and organ and synthesizer?" Oh gosh.
I could talk for a long time about your photography and about your music, but unfortunately, we don't have time to continue. I know that you're just starting well, you're involved in a huge tour now of America right up until next year. And I suppose maybe, hopefully, Europe after that.
I would hope so too. We want to go back there, and I imagine we will. It's not that it's just getting all the you know the niceties of touring together. Can we afford to do it mainly? Yeah, we'd be over there right now, but we'll get it all together, and very very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, us too. It's so great to have Little Feat here, still keeping Lowell's music alive, but also still evolving and doing new and interesting stuff. Thank you so much for your time, Bill. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you today.
Same here, Paul. Thank you. And for everybody out there, um, this gentleman knows his stuff. It's been a great interview, and I will remind everyone that on April 13th is Lowell's would have been Lowell's 80th birthday, and I hope you'll join me in celebrating it.
I will do. I will do. Definitely do. Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
All right, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Adios.